I got started in network marketing in 2007 of August. And I remember I was not really the greatest coachable student in the business. Back then, Mr. Timothy Herr would kind of tease me and always call me the national director of complaining. Right. And this is, the saying, right? Yesterday's home runs don't win today's games. I heard that saying for the first time. Guess what? When Mr. Timothy Herr told me that story, he said, I get that you were a K-pop singer, you've done some amazing things, but you're a rookie here in our industry and you need to become a student of the business. Get out of the way or take notes and take it serious. And it was a time where I had to really take it serious and make a decision. Am I going to take this seriously? And when I did, the best thing I can tell you is when the student is ready, the teacher always appears. And I remember this like yesterday when Mr. Timothy Herr said this to me. He said, Chris, just go out and do as many one-on-ones as possible, okay? One app a day will keep Tim Herr away. And I'm telling you this because this literally changed the trajectory and the course of my entire career. Like, this is what that aha moment did for me in setting the course to who I became today. And it was like a small gift, like a small word of advice, but I took it to heart and I took it seriously, and thank God I did, because that is what developed me. Now, looking back, when it comes to like closing and getting that one app a day, it wasn't really about Mr. Timothy Herr wanting me to get one app a day and contribute to, open line production. It was him wanting me to do the right activities, focusing on the right activities over and over and over again so that I would get better. And I didn't know that at the time. But, oftentimes, we call it the downward love, right? For those of you that are parents, right? If you have a child, there's a saying that your child will never, ever understand the love you have for your child. It's called the downwards love, right? And I feel that way about sponsors and uplines and partners and downlines and things like that. And Betty was talking about this at the convention. It is in hindsight that you are able to connect the dots, right? So today, I will be training on some uncomfortable topics, but like Jim Rohn says, right, you must do the uncomfortable till it becomes the comfortable, because the challenge to succeed in life is about the small disciplines daily. Mr. Danny Bay, Mr. Timothy Herr, they opened my eyes to personal development. And Jim Rohn, in his training series, The Challenge to Succeed, he explains how is it that there's so many people living from paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make their quality of life better, but how is it that there are these select few that are living an abundant life, living an amazing life. And when you look at the scope of their life, it looks like they're living an amazing life. It seems like everything is working out for them and they're succeeding and just moving on in life. But there is a formula to this. And that's where they teach the challenge to succeed. If it were easy, everybody would be successful. But the true challenge to succeed is the battle within. And I believe what's going to make you really good is embracing the most uncomfortable things that you think are a part of this business, right? So welcome to the 8-week training course. We have gotten through 4 weeks. We skipped a week because of Roadmap 2025 convention, but today I get to train on some of my favorite topics, and it is called How to Seal the Deal. Closing, okay? Now, there are many facets to closing. There's many steps to closing. This isn't a really long training, but it's for you to grasp the idea of what this process really looks like when you're going for the close. What makes you good? What makes you improve? What makes you stand out from the rest? Now, think of this, right? We're all in the same company. We're all selling the same products. We're all marketing world-renowned K-beauty, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. We're all under the same compensation plan and rules and guidelines. But how is it that some have different results than others, right? And this is the secret to the business. It's doing the repetitions and paying attention to the small details that give you that massive momentum, leaning forward action of momentum. Okay. So let's talk about how to seal the deal and close strong. Okay. But before I get into the training, I do want to state this. At some point, you must make a decision to take on the challenge to succeed. We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Okay. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And what I want to get at is when you are on your deathbed and it is almost time for you to go meet your maker, do you really think you're going to be on your deathbed and say, I really wish I would have gone overtime and worked a little more? I really, really wish, I would have done extra work. No. So before it's too late, pick your heart, choose your heart in life, right? Choose the discipline that is hard, doing the uncomfortable till it is comfortable, or choose the pain of regret and, something we don't ever get back, right? Which is our time. So I'm coming to you from, like more of like a heart of hearts talk, because if you learn how to close and you understand the awareness of how to use your talents in closing, you will never worry about money again. You will become wealthy, not just in network marketing, but in anything you do, right? You're either selling or buying, right? So I'm going to go over how to be a great closer. But in starting, I'm going to tell you guys a really, really amazing story, a funny story that really inspired me to become one of the greatest networkers like these two gentlemen you see on the screen today. To be a great networker, to be a leader, to have the skill set where you never have to worry about money again, it boils down to breaking out of your shell, getting out of your comfort zone. Because in doing so, this helps you become super intuitive. Your intuition will grow over time, and it's going to raise your level of awareness about what's going on around you, within you, inside your home, outside your home. It's going to raise that level of awareness. But oftentimes, when you examine Mr. Danny Bay and he talks about his story and his relationship with Mr. Timothy Herr, there's a key like quote that he says. He says, Mr. Timothy Herr is one of my very first mentors, and he's the actual gentleman that helped me break out of my shell, right? And what Mr. Danny Bay is actually talking about is how these two became friends and how their relationship went on for decades. And because of these actions that happened here, the 2 decades later result is we all ended up here in Remont. Just think of this, okay? If these two hadn't met at that moment in time, imagine none of us would have been here. None of us. Like, that's the beauty of network marketing. Like, every single one of you on this call today, we would have never been friends or had a relationship had it not been for the Remont opportunity. There's so many people out there in the world today, but out of everybody, billions of people in the world, how is it that these 151 participants are on the call here today? That's fate. Everything happens for a reason. So I'm going to tell you this story, right? So Mr. Timothy Herr, he stumbled across and found Mr. Danny Bay at a home meeting. And it was the very earliest time of Mr. Danny Bay's career. He was very new, didn't know anything, came from South Korea, broken English, didn't really speak English. But Mr. Tim Herr, being the GOAT, the Yoda, the millionaire maker he is, like give respect where it's due, guys, okay? Tim is the real deal, okay? But what he saw that day at the meeting, and he told me this story about Danny Bay and how this all went down, and he said there were so many ranked up leaders, suited and booted, looking sharp and everything, right? And as he was looking in the room where there was like a home meeting happening, Tim said to one of his partners that was the upline of that organization, said, "Hey, I don't know about all the people here, but you see that Asian guy right there? He's the guy. He's the leader." And this was before Mr. Danny Bay was Danny Bay. This is the Danny Bay you see right here, before he was able to break out of his shell. But Mr. Timothy Herr had the foresight, had the knowledge, had the experience. He had gone through many years of breaking out of his shell, that by the time he ran into Mr. Danny Bay, Tim Herr was already a unconscious, competent leader that could already see beyond other people's awareness. So Mr. Timothy Herr was already at that point. He was already a top producing leader. But when he ran into Mr. Danny Bay, he was able to identify Mr. Danny Bay as the E.F. Hutton, the one out of everybody else. Not because of how he was dressed, not because of how he was speaking, but his attitude, his posture, right? The attitude of the taking on the challenge to succeed. Tim Herr was able to recognize that quick. And he said, out of everybody here, that's the one, that's the leader. And this is before Mr. Danny Bay became Mr. Danny Bay. But because Tim had this keen foresight to identify talent and identify leaders, he offered Mr. Danny Bay to do a few meetings for him, to go do recruiting sessions with him, even though he wasn't in the downline. Why? Because Mr. Tim Herr knew that the person he was looking at is the future Mr. Danny Bay. Tim already saw this, right? Because he said he's the leader. He's the one. Once he's developed and he breaks out of his shell, he's going to be special. He already saw this, right? So Tim Herr, he has this uncanny awareness, kind of like how Jerry West was able to identify Kobe Bryant in Philadelphia in the early rookie days and trade for him for Vlade Divac, right? Like, sorry, for those of you that know basketball, but like Tim is like a Jerry West. He has this uncanny awareness. And what he did with Danny in 2002 is he took him to the university campus of UNLV. And that day they spent, I think, all day and a few extra days, all day, every day, nonstop, just cold marketing people. Now, I don't recommend cold marketing. Okay, cold marketing is really hard. It doesn't work. But I want to get to the point why they did the cold marketing, right? It was so that Tim could help Danny break out of his shell and get his own realization. So what Tim was doing is literally taking the training wheels off and taking him into the combat zone and getting him ready, trained, and real life experience, right? These are the experiences you need to have a great closing skill. Okay. It doesn't just happen naturally, it happens by the sheer volume and amount of depth of meetings that you're willing to do. Okay. And when you do that, you become unstoppable. You become refined like fine wine. So just remember, at some point, Mr. Timothy Herr, Mr. Danny Bay, myself, and other leaders, we were not who we were today years ago. Okay. So when it comes to closers, you're going to go through an evolution of closing. Okay. There are three types of closers. To start, I'll start with the easy. Good closers will sell features, meaning they'll talk about the product, the before and after. They'll be product orientated and they'll naturally lead into the opportunity. But people with experience, great students of the business that are great closers, they usually sell the outcome of the matter, right? And this is because they're consistent, they're persistent, and they are system driven, right? So these people, these are like team leaders that are able to duplicate, they can close the deal, they can create team leaders. These great closers sell the outcome, right? These are people, that haven't made $1 million a year yet, but they're making several hundred thousands a year, right? These guys are great closers, they sell the outcome, they know the game. Now, elite closers, the top 1% elite, they know how to sell feelings. And this is what Brianna Michaels was talking about, right? Posture, having the confidence, the energy that rubs off, that gives other people the energy and confidence to follow you, right? And that transfer of emotion. Everything is transfer of emotion in sales, right? Every transaction is a transfer of emotion. 2025 Riemann Roadmap was a transfer of emotion, a transfer of faith, transfer of belief, transfer of motivation, transfer of promise. It's all a transfer of belief. And leaders that are able to close the deal right then and there, they are absolute masters of transferring emotion, okay? Now, this little picture right here, Glengarry Glen Ross, right? This is an old iconic movie about sales. This is a parental advisory recommended. It is very foul. It is locker room talk. But the reason why I put this picture here is Alec Baldwin is an amazing actor. And what he did in this movie that made it so iconic is in his acting capabilities, what he portrays in the part of this clip is he portrays the transfer of emotion. He knows how to do this. So as he's acting, he is showing transfer of emotion. So, just to give you like a rough draft, you can go on YouTube and watch it. Make sure you do it when kids aren't around. But it's very compelling because he goes to a failing dealership, like a car dealership franchise, and all the sales guys are just complainers, right? National director of complaining, right? The leads are weak, or people say they got to think about excuse after excuse after excuse. And he's sitting there borderline yelling at these sales agents, teaching them the real etiquette of posture, transfer of emotion, how elite closers sell the feeling. And he's able to transfer that emotion and feeling to his guys, whether he's insulting them, making fun of them, putting them down, trying to stimulate them to rise up. You feel all that in this gentleman's acting. And that's why this movie became so iconic in regarding the sales genre, right? So for those of you that have the time to go see, I recommend it because it clearly portrays the selling of the feeling. Okay, so great elite closers always sell feelings. Okay, now embracing your journey from good to elite. Now, in my recruiting training the prior week, I talked about something called the 4 stages of leadership competency. Okay, it's like a baby that doesn't know how to walk. Later, they learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk, and then they fall, and they know that they can't really walk yet, and then they get to a place where they could completely walk, and then later, without even thinking about it, they can run. Right? This is unconscious competence, right? So unconscious incompetence is you don't know nothing, you don't know what you're doing, you're not that good. But when you get to unconscious competence, it's like second nature to you, right? So even in closing, you have to go through these motions. In all of my trainings, I talk about the results are good. You want to close somebody, app somebody up, sell products, that's great. But what's more important than that is the right activities that you're doing. Okay, the right activities that you're doing. I'm going to elaborate on this in some later slides. But remember, when Mr. Timothy Herr and Mr. Danny Bay first got started, right, you're looking at the refined wine version of Tim and Danny today. When they got started, this is their true image. This is what they were, okay? And even then, starting off as new planners, new distributors in network marketing, they were able to become good sellers. Why? Because they harnessed the product confidence. They were product orientated. They led with the opportunity. They knew compensation, but they were good students, right? They plugged in. Right. And they got good at selling the features, right? Selling the opportunity, knowing how to recruit. Right. Now, when you get to the great closers part, this picture right here of Mr. Timothy Herr is a picture of Mr. Timothy Herr about 18, 19 years old. And the gentleman standing next to him is Mr. Jerry Balla. Mr. Jerry Balla is the OG mentor of Mr. Danny Bay and Mr. Timothy Herr. I also was able to be at the tail end, mentored by this gentleman during my last 6 months in the same company we were all in. And this is actually a picture of Mr. Timothy Herr winning a promotion to an S500 Mercedes-Benz, right? And this is like the best revenge is massive success story, because when he first joined and he was being mentored by Mr. Jerry Balla, his high school teacher said, Tim, you're going to be nothing. You're never going to amount up to anything. Network marketing is going to make you a loser. And when he won this promotion and won that S class, he drove to his high school in that S class and showed his teacher the S class. And, great mentors and teachers were once great students, right? And let's take a look at Mr. Danny Bay. During his journey and going from good closer to great closer, he was an absolute sponge of a coachable student. Mr. Timothy Herr gets an S class, well, then I'm going to get the S class. Do you see how serious Mr. Danny Bay was about his success, right? Like, this is what Tim was able to identify. When you become unconscious competent, before that person is the national director, you are able to see he is a national director candidate leader, right? This all happens from doing things over and over and over and over and over again. Myself, Mr. Tim Herr, and Danny Bay, how many no's do you think we got along the way, right? So many no's that you get numb, you get good, you get refined, and you end up becoming the cream of the crop, and you end up in the elite category, where now you can do a presentation, you can do a comp plan training, you can train in front of 5,000 people on stage, but you can still read the room. You know what the energy is. You know what the overall people are thinking. You know how to pivot your training. You know how to pivot your information. This is what elite closers do. And this is where Tim, Danny, and other great leaders are at. But how they got there is they went through the leadership competency phase. They didn't jump from step 1 and jump to step 50. They took every step necessary. Regardless of the results, they took the necessary actions that make them better, that will yield into undeniably unbeatable results. Okay. So with that said, I want to share something, a video of what my mentor, Mr. Brian Tracy, talks about regarding closing and really closing with your warm market. Okay, so I'm going to read this. Based on industry data, okay, AI overview by Google, closing rates for a warm market. What is a warm market? People that you directly know and have a trust foundation with. That's your warm market, okay? Based on industry data, closing rates for a warm market, contacts who have an existing relationship with you or your business can range from 15% to over 30%, with some studies citing rates as high as 50% for high intent warm leads. That's the conversion rate, right? So you have up to 15 to 50% in converting these people over just based on the people that you know, your warm market, right? This is significantly higher than the average closing rate for cold leads. Cold leads is what? People that you don't know, have no trust, which hover around 1 to 2%, right? So let's take a look at this video real quick, see what Brian Tracy has to say.
If you're in sales, as I was for many years, you don't really have a choice over the product. You have to assume that your company has produced a good product or service and they have priced it well in a competitive market. So your job is to sell more of it. And this brings us to the great breakthrough of the 21st century, is that all sales in the 21st century are relationship sales. They're relationship sales, which means that people do not buy the product or service, they buy how they feel about the person selling it. And then the product or service becomes important. So the first job of the sales professional is to take the time to develop a relationship of trust and credibility with a prospect.
Developing trust and credibility with the prospect, selling the feeling, right? And he also said something very important, right? He said, you have to assume your company did their job. Really great products and affordable pricing. Well, Riemann fits that bill. Any other network marketing company? I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't know. But Riemann, absolutely. Look at the momentum we're having. Look at the momentum people with no experience in direct sales are having here in Riemann, right? So why closing your warm market matters? It's because you want to focus your energy on the right people, right? You don't want to be shooting blanks. You want to do the activities that matter. That's either going to make you learn or earn, right? Grow or get rich. Grow, get rich. Think and grow rich, right?
If you're in sales.
Now, why do the top producing planners get rejected way more than you and still win? Let me ask this again. Why do top producing planners in our company get rejected more and still win? We're under the same plan, the same compensation plan, the same products, right? the same training system. We all have 24 hours in a day. But why do top producing planners get rejected more and still win? Because top producers play on a completely different playing field. Okay. So this is the actual closing formula that is absolutely predictable. Let's just say you did your part, right? You went from the prospecting to the product demo to the presentation, and now we are at the close. Like, you've shown the product packages, and now you're ready to try to sign up, right? You're going for it, right? So in the beginning, at step one, here's what's going to happen. Okay, during your close process, it's not always going to be picture perfect step 1 through 6. It might be step 1 and then step 4, step 3, step 2, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or maybe 1, 6, 5. Who knows, right? Maybe 1 straight to 6. Everybody's different, right? But in some way, shape, or form, you're going to go through these phases of closing. And if you can master this, master the mundane on this, right? Every prospect you sit down with and you keep applying this formula, what does Jim Rohn say? A ratio is going to appear. But it's going to be like a two-edged sword, because your skill starts to get good. You're going to be much more refined, and you're going to get really good in your speaking capabilities. But also, because you did this so systematically, you're going to know how to do this, what? Unconsciously, competently. Okay. So in the beginning, when you're going for the close, you ask a closing question, such as, did you see a way? Relate with the family, occupation, recreation, motivation, money that we talked about in the recruiting, right? And then what do? Be quiet. Be absolutely quiet, where you can hear crickets jumping. Okay. I want you to listen carefully, even though you're uncomfortable, even though it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. Take my word for it and just try it, and just listen carefully. It doesn't have to be for like 2 minutes, and just, it could be a quick 5, 7, 8 seconds of sheer silence. That's all it really takes. Okay. Step 2 is the assumptive close. Now, remember, during this time, you're leading the conversation. You're leading with the energy. You have probably asked a lot of yes questions. Do you know K-beauty? Do you like K-beauty? Would you like to try K-beauty? Do you think it's K-beauty? Yes, 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 yes. You got them into the yes mode, and you got to the close. You ask a closing question. Did you see a way where you could be financially secure? Did you see a way, right? And at the assumptive close, you have to assume they're going to sign up. Assume, right? So what I do, usually I fill out their application for them, right? I usually pull out the referral link, and I take them step by step, and I kind of show them as we do it. iPads help too, right? But like when you walk them through it, you're taking them by the hand, because at the assumptive close, your prospect isn't sure about anything at this moment. They're just excited. They think they want to do it. There is some excitement. There's information overload, but they definitely are excited about K-beauty. Like, there's a lot of running emotions. So you have to, it's not whether you close them or not, but it's the assumption, creating that energy intentionally, having the assumptive close, right? Always expect the premium starter set. You decide what duplicates and what your time is worth. That's true, right? So here, it's about finding balance, guys. It's about also knowing what your prospect's financial capacity in reality that is, versus pushing them to get the best value, because at some point they're going to need more products, they're going to want to upgrade. But also, what your activities do duplicates, right? It's not what you say, it's what you do is what duplicates. So if you set a standard that the premium pack is the norm, and that's, you're setting the tone, then everybody coming in at the premium pack, then everybody, it's like all tides, all boats rise with the rising tide type situation. You're just going to set the bar high, and everybody's going to have higher checks, higher commissions, higher income. Now, that's not always the case in a perfect, in a perfect world, right? It's not a perfect world, but it is really having the posture and setting the tone and leading, assuming they are going to start. Okay. Isolating objections. This is really one of my favorite parts, isolating objections. This is going back and forth. What about this? What about that? And sometimes I will address it as well, just so that they can't throw it back in my face, right? This is also another technique, but it's having posture, confidence, sense of urgency, and that fear of loss. Lead with honesty and full disclosure. Because at this point, remember, people came to the meeting because of you. They trusted you. And when they do get started, they're getting started on the basis that they trusted you, and they feel like you can take them where they want to go, right? So it's all about having that confidence. Like, it's loaning out your confidence, because people, when they are not sure, they'll sometimes make a decision based on how confident you are, right? Have posture. Act as if you're an ND. Act as if you're a ST. Act as if. be the leader first. Okay. Now let's talk about the cushion, right? This is really about relating with feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way too, but here's what I found out, right? Same thing, right? I always relate with, in the beginning, I was a little skeptical, doubtful, and negative, but in the back of my mind and heart, I was a little hopeful, right? That's a very, smooth way of saying feel, felt, found, right? But when you relate to people, you're kind of alleviating the insecurity. You're alleviating the fear of the unknown, right? And most people, because we are emotional beings, we can relate to that, right? Now let's get to overcoming the objections, right? I love going head to head with objections, because the more objections that come your way, that is telling me you're actually interested. Because if somebody isn't interested, they won't even give you the time of day in the ear. They'll tell you, thank you for your time. I really got to go. You're going to be able to know, once you do this long enough, what a real no is, and a no, which means keep convincing me, ask me again, sell me again, tell me some more. But that could come in a form of a no. And I'm going to kind of get into that. I'm going to explain more into depth what to look for as you're going for the close. Okay. So feel, felt, found is a cushion. It's a way to alleviate pressure, alleviate insecurity. And then when you get to overcoming objections, people will be afraid not to join you if they know you know where you're going. If they are still sitting there, that absolutely means they want in. This is absolutely true. Okay? If they're sitting there giving you objections, borderline skeptical, but asking uncomfortable, wrong questions, it literally means convince me again. Let's debate. If I'm wrong, I will join. Keep closing, keep going. That's the signal. Keep on going. When you're getting into an objection, be fierce. Don't be scared. Don't fight. Don't argue, but have posture. This is where posture comes in. This is where your confidence comes in. This is where you know with conviction what these products have done for you and what they will do for your prospect, right? Have that posture, right? And if they're there with objections, asking you over and over and over again, they are interested because they're there, okay? Now, step 6 is receiving the payment, I just say Visa or MasterCard, and I give them a smile, and I wait. Now, in a perfect world, you want to close 10 out of 10, but in reality, you're not going to get everybody, right? Some won't get started, right? Everybody has different circumstances, but if you don't get the close there, make sure you leave them happy and get to the next event, right? Why? Because if you make someone feel good, there's always an opportunity for a second meeting again. Now, let me elaborate. So the best in the game will hear a no and barely flinch. They will not care. Let me explain. Average salespeople will tie their confidence to the outcome. Did I get a yes? Right? That's the emotional roller coaster I was talking about in the recruitment phase, right? My friends said they're coming. I got excited. And then they call me, they're not going to make it to the meeting and I'm in a slump, right? My friend told me no. Most will hear a no and they will immediately lose confidence, right? Is this a scam? Did I just blow my money? Is this really going to happen for me, right? This is what average people go through. And this is why it's so important to really train your mindset with the 4 stages of leadership competency. Accept the fact you don't know what you don't know. The more you think you know, the more you realize you don't know, right? But let me tell you this. Top salespeople are focused solely only on doing the right steps in the sales process over and over and over and over and over and over again, no matter the result. And that's this right here, closing with a predictable formula. One way, shape, or form, during the close, you're going to come across close to 6 steps of this, what's going to go down in the communication phase of closing, right? It could be step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can happen step 1 and then step 6 without a fight. It could be step 1, step 3, step 4, step 2, step 5, and then step 6. It could be in different phases too, because people are different, right? But check this out. Top salespeople actually fail way more than most will even try. Do you see why Miss Brianna Michael said on stage, Chris Kim, he has posture? It's because I don't care. I know this. I understand the details and the nitty gritty of the process. I just don't care. I don't get sad. It's just on to the next, right? They take more shots than everyone combined. The law of averages truly work in your favor, okay? Average salespeople will hear a no and immediately lose confidence, and it will be correlated to the outcome. Top dogs, top ladies, top girls, top men, top women, power sellers, sponsor monsters. These people are focused on the right activities more than getting the yes. Because remember, if you learn this skill, you will never, ever have to worry about generating income ever again in your life, in your career. Okay. So I want to talk about timing the close, right? Now, not everybody gets started right then and there. This is kind of like how you find love, right? Some people will find love straight out of the club that day, right? Some people will find love maybe getting to know one another, right? And some people, by chance, because of timing, because of crossroads, might get started or might fall in love with you or might get married to you, right? It's just like that, right? Timing your close, right? In the short game, you want to spend 70% of your time, skill, and valuable information in the short game, meaning the people that you influence, whether it's your circle of friends, whether it's your planners, contacts, and you've been edified properly and you influence people, you want to spend 70% of your time in the short game. When you're in the short game zone, remember, close hard, be firm, have posture, be confident, because you know it is a yes, okay? And the yes is going to be based upon your posture and how strong you're willing to close, okay? So in your short game, this is getting the yes right then and there at a one-on-one, at a K pop-up, at a Zoom meeting, at a VIP opportunity event. We want to spend 70% of our time in the short game. Now, mid-game, you want to spend 20% of your time with the fortune in the follow-up. A lot of the times, these are your equal peers, right? My best friend, I have a friend named John. He's an American hero. He's a firefighter, I believe, with Long Beach, right? I grew up with this guy. I grew up with him since fourth grade playing basketball. Okay. When he sees me today, he doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, multimillionaire national director, Mr. Christopher Kim, nice to meet you." He doesn't do that, right? He doesn't respect me necessarily, but he trusts me, right? So these peers require follow-up, more exposures, and that's why we talk about edification, introducing people to your upline. That's the mid game, the long game. But in the short term, in the now, your now money, income, generating opportunities, spend 70% of your time in the short game. Timing is everything. Okay, this is the fun part. Getting a yes, getting somebody to say yes to you in sales. Did you know that there is a specific formula? When it's met, you get a yes. And it's with one of these three. And if one of the three isn't met, it will always be a no. So if you can lock in all three criterias, be almost sure you're going to get a yes. They will sign up on the spot. But if one of the three isn't met, you will have to do a follow-up, okay? So a person's mind subconsciously looks for three things. Higher closing average conversion is based upon reason. So your prospect, they have to know the reason. Does it make clear logical sense? And do they have a reason why they should, right? Now, when you're doing these opportunity presentations, the whole purpose is there's so many angles of messages and things happening, right, to this person, and based on their personality, like, there's income opportunity, product opportunity, trending. There's all these angles of emotions that is hitting your prospect, right? All these, right? And within all those emotions, if you can get these three locked in, you're getting a yes, right? Profit, right? Your prospect must believe what they get is actually worth more than what they give, right? This is the reality of the matter. Some people, nobody blames themselves, but the reality is, everybody wants something for nothing. But what network marketing truly delivers is you have a good product, you do the work once and get paid on it over and over and over and residualize. That really is, you're getting something more than what you give. Think about that. You enroll the customer once, and every month that customer is coming back buying from you over and over and over and over again. Is there a profit to be made? Bingo. Okay. Doable. Actions needed for success. They must be able to believe that they can do it and they can execute. When offering starter sets, find the balance between affordability and best value as well. Now, this is where your leadership comes in, having some awareness, not just hard closing fully hard and blowing someone out, right? So there is a science to getting a yes. Reason, profit, and is it doable? If you can meet this criteria, you are getting a yes. If you got a no, every no has a clue, okay? If you didn't get the yes right then and there on the spot, everything, the stars aligned, right? They were a 70%er, they were asking all the buying questions, but you ended up getting a no, right? So for every no, realize that there is a clue in every no you get, okay? So don't be negative. Don't be discouraged. Ask yourself, what do I need to change to turn this into a yes? Constructive, constructive criticism and working on yourself, right? Don't be thrown off and discouraged by the rejection, but use it as an indicator. Use it as a navigation tool, a temperature gauge, right? Don't let it personally get to you, okay? This is a science, okay? And also, in hindsight, re-examine. Check which criteria wasn't met. Think about this, right? This is what Brian Tracy is talking about, right? You might not get the results you want, but you learn and then you get better, right? These are the actionable steps with intention that actually makes you better. Success leaves clues, okay? The dreaded, I need to think about it. I just need to think about it. I need to go home and think about what is there to think about, dude? Nobody just goes home and thinks about it with this, like, think about it statue posture, and nobody goes home and thinks about it. You understand? Okay. Now, when you get this, I need to think about it, you need to go back to this. Okay. The no, where's the clue at? Look for the clue. Where's the criteria that I need to meet? And also in that criteria, there's two things you must figure out. Okay. They don't want to buy. Is it that they don't want to buy? And that's okay too. Some will, some won't, some wait. So what? Who's next? You will get no's along the way, right? However, we will be tickling our toes in the world's most exotic beaches saying, do you remember that guy that said no while we're drinking our Mai Tais? We will be doing that too, okay? Some will, some won't, some wait. So what? Who's next? Find it. Is it that they don't want to buy or they do want to buy, but you must go looking for the unvoiced concern. What is the unvoiced concern, right? 9 times out of 10, it could be the money, right? Or it could be a faith thing, right? Or like they don't know if it's real or things like that. And it really has to do with just asking a lot of questions. Just asking a lot of questions and learning to listen and like wait for that punchline, what they're about to tell you, right? A lot of missed chances come from failed awarenesses. You know, I've seen so many one-on-ones, prospecting sit downs where I knew if I did it, I would have closed the deal, right? But I didn't intervene because why? It wasn't necessarily about the yes. It was about mastering the right activities so this person can grow and become a leader and they could run on their own and build the business on their own, right? So if you get I need to think about it, don't just say, a lot of people would just like average recruiters will just excuse them and say, yeah, sure, think about it. Let me know. Let's talk again. Thanks for your time, right? But a lot of missed chances come from that failed awareness. Okay. To the least, look for if they want to buy, they don't want to buy, and you can go from there. Okay. Also, another tip, start your presentation with the close. I do this all the time. Right now, I'm about to give you some information that's going to give you enough information to make an educated decision if Remon can help change you and your family's financial future. With you taking up your time, and of course, me taking up my time, when we're all finished today, just give me a simple yes or no. Obviously, because you and I both know that saying maybe or I need to think about it is just a nice way of saying no. Is that fair with you? Look him in the eyes, give him a fair handshake. What you're literally doing is eliminating the excuse from the jump. You're making it so they can't say that to you at the end of the close. Okay, this often works really, really well. If they're a no, they will make it very clear they're a no. If they have a slight interest of being a yes, they will stick around. Okay, now, overcoming objections. Now, this is where we get to the objections, overcoming objections. This is like step 4, step 5. When you get to the objection part, don't be scared. Have posture. Be confident. When someone is coming at you with objections, remember, they're interested. Sell me some more. Convince me again. I'm sitting here. I'm unsure. I want to know. Once this uneasy feeling is met, I will start. Think about that. 6 reminders about objections. Objections are buying signs, not rejecting. Why? Because they're still there asking you the uncomfortable question. Once the uncomfortable stuff is removed, they can make an educated decision and join you. Okay. Number 2, objections are a natural process in the decision-making process and gives us knowledge on where to spend more time. Even when I'm buying a car at the dealership, I'm giving them objections and what I want, and I want it like this, give me a deal. My monthly has to be this, but I'm there. I'm still there. I'm still negotiating. I'm still there. I want the car. I'm still arguing with the salesman, right? Remember, it is a part of the process, decision-making process. An objection is simply a sign that the person is seriously interested. Why? They're still there. A no is they get up, have a nice day. It was nice meeting you. I wish you well, and they leave. That's the no. If that isn't the case, everything else is just words. Even if they said no, it doesn't mean no. It means ask me again, sell me some more. I promise you. Why? Because they're still sitting there in front of you, conversating, engaging. Okay. Number 4, most objections are misunderstandings that need to be addressed or questions that need to be answered, right? Obviously, right? What did you feel when you first were introduced to this Remon opportunity, right? I was a little skeptical, doubtful, but in the back of my mind, I was hopeful. In my heart, I was hopeful. Maybe, what if? K-beauty is trending. K-beauty is big, right? Questions just need to be answered, right? So when objections come your way, this is the cue for you to remember this and apply the reminders of objections, okay? There are no new objections. Once you get the objections out of the way, they're not going to come out with some new 21 questions again, okay? They're going to address those. And once you hit it in the nail, it's time to close. They're going to sign, okay? Now, repeat the objection, jump on their side, and become an assistant buyer. Now, this has to do with matching energy, right? You don't want to be in a place where you're losing ground on energy. You want to be leading the conversation. You want to be, have the leverage and posture, but at the same time, you don't want to end up argumentative with them. You want to be on their side and explain your way to closing, okay? So this is actually one of the best advices I can give you. When objections come, I hope you get happy because that means they are interested. Now, taking it away, why do some people buy more or insist on joining when you tell them not to? Now, reverse psychology actually really works in sales, okay? Maybe it's not for you. When you take away, there is a psychological shift. Something powerful happens. The pressure to buy, the feeling of pressure is removed immediately. It's removed immediately. Now, on your first try, play with this. Try this, try that, get an understanding, go through that experience, okay? Their point of view completely flips. Subconsciously, they start to justify why it's a great purchase or commitment, and they start to feel that it's absolutely valuable and needed. Why? Because no one wants to be sold, but everybody loves to buy if it's their decision. Now we get to the payment part. We're almost done, guys. Payment. State it clearly and be quiet. Why you need to be quiet is when you're staying quiet, your prospect, it's decision time, right? And this time it's nerve-wracking. You know, what's he gonna say? The fear of rejection, but the more you do, the more smoother you're gonna get, refined like fine wine. Remember, closers sell feelings, right? There is no need to justify the pricing. They know it too. So let them think, let them process. Be quiet, wait for them to speak. Because when you have posture and you show your confidence, there is confidence about your price, then the customer becomes confident about the purchase. Okay. When you go to the mall and you go to Ralph's and you see the cashier, or when you're going to a place and you see these beautiful little girls wanting to sell you Girl Scout cookies, right? And when you're ready to buy, have you seen the cashier or these Girl Scout Girl Scout club members become nervous? Were they scared to ask you, can I get your credit card? Visa? No. Have a cashier's confidence, the matter-of-fact attitude. Visa, Amex, or MasterCard, let me fill the application out for you, right? This is the defining factor when people buy into you or you're going to buy into them, right? Larry Thompson, he shared an amazing story in one of our focus groups about the greatest teacher, right? He said, shake every grain of sand out of your sandals, because even one grain, that could end up causing an infection, an infliction, leading to even amputation, right? So what did he say? It's absolutely important to shake every grain out of your sandal. Why? Because it's not that important if people don't buy into your story, but it is absolutely detrimental and important if you buy into their excuses and their story, right? So remember, have the matter-of-fact cashier's confidence. Okay, so remember, the decision comes naturally when you focus on the right actions. Yes is not, it is a goal. The goal is to get the yes, but in the big picture, yes is not a goal. It is an outcome of you taking all the right necessary steps. And if you fit it into a how to close system, then nothing changes and only your skill gets refined like fine wine, right? So getting a yes, remember, it's the reason, profit, and doable. Is this criteria met? And in the recruiting process during the close, am I going through this formula in detail? Am I following this formula? And as I did my presentation following these formulas, did the reason, profit, and doability connect? Okay. This is what I look at when I go into closing. I always look at these indicators, and over an 18-year span of time, it has helped me to become an absolute powerhouse closer. I love doing it. In closing, I'm going to give you the last bullet points on how to close. Have posture, confidence, sense of urgency, fear of loss. People are going to be scared not to follow you when you know where you're going. Have your application ready. You're leading the conversation. Always expect a premier set. Why? Because that's what duplicates. Did you see a way? Hot button, form. Ask a closing question. Be quiet. Listen carefully. Relate with, feel, felt, found. Right? I felt the same way. 7 no's equals a yes. Right? The people that you respect, the people that you want to get the no's out of the way. Fill out their application for them. People will be afraid not to join you if you know where you're going. If they still are sitting right then and there, it really means convince me again, close me more. Okay. Some people close to live, others live to close. If you don't get to close them, leave them happy and get them to the next event. All right. So in closing, here's what I want to share with you. I've shared this story countless times, but you must be a rhino when you are closing. In the world of recruiting and closing, potential planners and customers were never yours to begin with. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. No fear. So what I mean is a rhino has 3 characteristics. They're thick-skinned. So when they're eyes on the prize, nothing can get in its way. The second part is they have peripheral vision. They can only see forward. They don't pay attention to what's happening to the left or the right. Eyes on the prize, locked in. And the third characteristic, they have a giant horn. What does Tim Herr say all the time? Over, under, or through, make a way or find one. You be the leader. Be thick-skinned. Be the rhino. Have that rhino mentality. So in closing, I want to thank everybody for sticking around for the closing training. Next week, we're going to go over the power of ICD products, like really what happens, what is happening in your sit down, in your K-pop-up, and what are you doing intentionally to create the right experience, intentionally to create the right sale, intentionally to create the right recruiting experience. That's what I will be sharing next week. So with that said, next week will be power of the Remon products, the power of ICD.